This is Glenn Campbell coming to you from outside a McDonald's restaurant in Deltona, Florida. And I'm here to talk to you today about the collapse of money as we know it. Now, there's a reason I'm out in front of McDonald's, but I'll get to that later. Right now, I want to talk about my deep distress at the national debt of the United States and the debts of the European nations. These are astronomical debts. Back when I was a kid, we were concerned about the national debt, but that was a trivial amount compared to what we have today. The real risk with these debts is that all the income, all the federal budget of the year may not be enough to pay the interest on these debts. That's certainly the case in Greece right now. Greece has accumulated so much debt and its interest rates have gone up so high that even with its austerity measures, the budget of Greece cannot pay for all the interest on its debt. So countries like Germany and France have to bail it out. Now, the situation is not so bad in the United States. We're paying about 6 or 7% of the federal budget is being paid for the interest on our huge national debt. But 6 or 7% depends on the interest rate being incredibly low like it is now. The government is not paying very much because the interest rate is so low. If the interest rate were to go up, then suddenly the amount of money that we're paying on interest alone is going to be larger than the defense budget, larger than the education budget. It could conceivably be larger than all the money that the government has to spend all year. That's the breaking point. It's just like when a homeowner takes on too much debt. Eventually he gets so much debt that he can't pay even the interest on that debt from his income, let alone paying down the principal. He can't pay the interest. At that point, he has to declare bankruptcy. Federal government can't do that. Federal government is the last resort for everything. It cannot declare bankruptcy. Now, one thing the federal government can do is they can print more money. If the federal government needs more money, it can just print more money. It has the ability to print more money. But when the government does that, it devalues the currency. It creates an inflationary environment. The government, maybe by issuing its own currency and maybe bringing down the value of its debt, but when it has to refinance that debt, it's going to be doing it at higher rates, and the problem just continues. At some point you get to a breaking point, just like an individual does when he takes on too much debt. The government takes on too much debt. Eventually there comes a breaking point where you just can't pay it off. You just can't pay it down. You just keep adding and adding and adding. And we may have already crossed that threshold, that critical level where the debt cannot shrink. It must get bigger, and when it gets bigger, something has to give. Something has to collapse. In third world countries, that happens through deflation, inflation. What happens is the government starts printing money, and that devalues the value of the currency, so that you pull out a $100 bill, you can't buy anything with that $100 bill. This is a real threat in the United States and the Eurozone, that eventually our currency will become useless. It will collapse. Maybe that's the only way. That's the bad news, that our currencies may collapse. The good news is the world will continue. The world will march on. There will be other currencies that will take its place. And they're currencies you just can't imagine right now. But they will all emerge in some form through the internet. This brings me back to why I'm in front of a McDonald's restaurant. You may not know this, or you may have forgotten this. The McDonald's issues its own currency. McDonald's issues what it calls gift certificates. You remember them. For $5, you can buy 5 $1 gift certificates. Use them at any McDonald's in the country to buy what you want. That's a form of currency. McDonald's is issuing them. You can take your McDonald's gift certificates and you can trade them to someone else for something else you want. They're currency. just like any other currency. The trouble is with McDonald's gift certificates, they're denominated in dollars. So if you buy a $1 gift certificate today, and inflation eats away at the value of that dollar, and you trade in your certificate 2 years from now, you're not going to get the same value out of it. It would be different if McDonald's gift certificates were denominated in hamburgers. Imagine you go into this McDonald's and you buy a gift certificate for 1 hamburger. That's something that's going to retain its value. It's a stable monetary system. Unlike a $1 gift certificate, a 1 hamburger gift certificate is something that holds its value. You can come back 2 years from now and you know that you still can get a hamburger for that gift certificate. Now that we know that we have this stable monetary form, this gift certificate, we can buy and trade. We can trade that gift certificate on the internet just like any other commodity, and we can denominate our purchases in hamburgers instead of dollars. You could go to the Amazon website and you could buy something on Amazon for 100 hamburgers. No actual hamburgers have to change hands, but you have something valuable that you can trade to someone else for what you want. Amazon can take hamburgers. They take all sorts of other currencies. Why can't they take hamburgers as well? McDonald's doesn't want the hamburgers physically, but those certificates or the electronic representation of those certificates has value that Amazon in turn can use to pay its suppliers or to do other things with. Hamburgers are the simple case, but in fact any corporation can issue its own currency based on anything that we perceive to have value. Value can be based on ounces of copper or storage capacity on a shared hard disk. You could say that each gigabyte stored for a year has a certain value, and you can trade on that value. Essentially, if the currency systems of the world collapse, we can go back to a barter system, just like in the old days before there was currency. If you had a pig and you wanted to trade it for some bread or something else, you could just physically trade these things. But with the internet, you don't have to physically trade them. You can just represent them. You can assure people that you have them, and then you can trade the credits for the pig. It's much more efficient than it ever was. If we go back to a barter system, we simply bypass the US dollar. We can trade in hamburgers. We can trade our hamburgers for pigs. We can trade pigs for cars. We can trade cars for vacations. It all can be done, represented on the internet without any actual dollars being involved. I envision private companies stepping in when the dollar collapses or the euro collapses. Private companies step in to provide their own monetary system. Just like PayPal. PayPal could in an instant decide not to trade in dollars anymore, but to trade in hamburgers. PayPal could do that very quickly if it was found that the dollar's value was no longer stable. If the dollar 5 years from now is eaten up by inflation or fails to be a valid currency, the internet would come up with some other currency form, and we would continue on trading just as we've done today. Just the transactions, the way the transactions are denominated would be a little bit different. Currencies can come from anywhere. Anyone can make up a currency. All we have to do is agree on the value of that currency. And hamburgers are as good a way to value our transactions as any other. There probably aren't enough hamburgers in all the universe to provide the currency that we need, but anything like that can be used as a currency. We just have to agree on it. And if governments fail to manage their own currencies, then the world will come up with its other currencies, and the world will march on. So I hope that the countries of the world get their debt problems under control. I hope they learn to manage their budgets so they're not spending more than they have. But if they can't do that, which seems more and more likely as time goes on, we will march on. We will come up with new currencies. They will be provided from private sources. They'll be based on things that we all agree on, and we'll go on. We'll continue to barter instead of trade in the currencies themselves. My message is that things are bad, but if things go from bad to worse, we'll still march on. In the meantime, I'm in front of McDonald's and I'm feeling like I should have a hamburger right now. I'm just feeling that's the thing to have. So I'm going to go in there and get one. Bye-bye.